We will start today with the first keynote of Lorenzo Cantoni, and I quickly will say some words about him. Lorenzo Cantoni graduated in philosophy and holds a PhD in education and linguistics. He is full professor at the USI, at the Università Svizzera Italiana in Lugano, where he works in the Faculty of Communication, Culture and Society, where he is the director of the Institute of Digital Technologies for Communication. In his research interests, he goes into the field of communication, education, and new media, the fields which are overlapping. And what I think is very interesting is he is also shareholder of the UNESCO chair in ICT to develop and promote sustainable tourism in World Heritage Sites. He is also Deputy Rector and Pro-Rector for Education and Students Experience at the USI. I'm very happy that Lorenzo Cantoni is here and giving us this first talk, and I'm welcoming you here. Thank you, Lorenzo.
Dear Peter, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and an honor. Me sitting or standing, the height is the same, so I'm standing in front of you. Thank you for the introduction. I know that you do super serious stuff, and congratulations for what you have been doing in the last years in the field of digital humanities. I'm just dealing with super frivolous stuff like tourism and fashion, and so I will kind of try to introduce you to those areas of practice. And thank you for hosting here at the Istituto Svizzero di Roma. I must say I feel at home every time I come here, so it's really a nice experience. So I would love to cover three main, let's say, steps. One is providing very briefly a framework we are using at the UNESCO chair in Lugano to reflect on the different ways digital media can help to promote sustainable tourism in heritage sites or heritage tourism. Then I will stress two issues among the many ones, which I believe should be considered by people like you focused on digitizing or digitalizing heritage. And then I will provide three cases, three projects we have been developing in the last years or a month. So the framework, not being very creative myself, I've called it ABCDE, but it's easy to remember and you can get a PhD easily by remembering it. So it stands for access, better, connect, disintermediate, and educate. And I'm very happy that we managed to publish the overall framework in a quite comprehensive volume a few weeks ago. Access means that you can use digital data or information, if you like, to make sure that people can, wherever they are, get access to high quality information about a place, about a heritage, about its history, about its value and meaning. In the field of UNESCO, we are focused especially on so-called outstanding universal value, or UV. And so it's important for us that when we display something, people can understand the value of such heritage. And so access is a major dimension of what is it required in the field of tourism to ensure that prospects, so people who might at a certain time decide to visit the place, can get a knowledge about that place. And in fact, we know that in tourism, we could distinguish three main phases. One is what happens before you travel, what happens when you are there, and what happens later on when you are back home. Before, then we can distinguish three main dimensions. One is the dimension of dreaming. And then there is the phase of planning, and then there is the phase of booking and buying. And so digital media play a major role in that dreaming phase, especially through videos. That's very clear. The World Tourism Organization has recently published a report about film tourism, stressing how important they are videos in the field of inspiring people to visit the place and learning about the place itself. And in fact, we know that young generations more and more, they prefer to access a video about something they don't know. Think, for instance, art in Ethiopia, more than accessing a text or just still images. But of course, digital media are super useful also in order to book, to plan the visit and to book the place. And I believe most of you have traveled up to here. You have used digital media to plan the full trip and to book the accommodation and the transportation as well. So these are the elements. And if we think of heritage places, I must say in France, the Cluny experience, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting ones. So they have published most of the digital items which are now available about Cluny. For those of you who haven't been there, Cluny used to be the largest Christian religious building on the planet before St. Peter's here in Rome has been built. And after the French Revolution, revolutionaries decided, like ISIS more recently, to destroy objects they believed were not supposed to be there. And so what you can see there in Cluny is just a super small percentage of what used to be there. And so in Cluny, they have done an extensive activity of digitizing materials so to provide a high quality and scientifically sound information about the art, tradition, history of the place. And of course, you might go there. And once you go there, nowadays, most of what we see as a huge advantage for people in order to enrich or better their experience in a place is using augmented reality. Of course, you can use also immersive virtual reality, but in most of the cases, this is not interesting for tourists. We have interesting applications. We did study, for instance, immersive virtual realities about the deep sea. We helped analyzing the experience in the museum, Museo del Mare in Genoa, in Genova, it's in Italian, where we could, for instance, analyze to the electrodermal activity, the experience of people being exposed to virtual reality about the deep sea creatures. As you know, it's not possible to experience directly. And so even if you are not, you are visiting an actual museum, there is an interest in using immersive virtual reality. But otherwise, we use mostly augmented reality. So you see what your senses are enabled to see in the place, the genius loci, but at the same time getting additional information about what is around you. And in terms of organizing such an experience, most of the cases, or in many cases, we tend to organize the visit in a gamified fashion. So ensuring that people are experiencing in a way that is also fun. And we know that if they get fun through the visit, the visit is likely to be more memorable. So they will remember what they have seen and experienced. And so through augmented reality and through gamified experiences, we can ensure that people will have a better understanding of the place and a more memorable experience of the place itself. In letter C stands for connect. And we can use extensively digital media to connect the three major players in the heritage tourism, which is the heritage itself, the visitors and locals. And this is very important. In most of the cases, tourists, I mean, people working in tourism, they were focused only on tourists themselves. But more and more, the issue of so-called over-tourism has stressed the importance of using digital media also to have on board the locals. And so, for instance, we have developed extensive materials which are used both, digital materials, for instance, online games, which are used both by locals and by travelers. And they help locals and travelers to get connected, to have meaningful encounters and meaningful exchanges like you are going to have in Frascati with people from Mesa. And that's very important. Many times we just think of having high quality digitized materials and people using them, but just visitors, and not using same or similar materials to invite locals to become the most important ambassadors of their heritage. Because in the end, locals will look after the heritage itself. This intermediate is less relevant for you, I believe, but it's super relevant, and definitely not for Switzerland or Italy, but it's super relevant for emerging tourism industries or markets. We know that, especially if we think we do many activities in Latin America or in Africa, in many cases, the money spent by travelers stays a lot, I mean, a huge percentage within intermediators. So doesn't go directly to the local communities. And so digital media can be used in order to enhance the connection between the visitor and people living there in order to ensure that money goes to the local community. And so promotes the well-being and the sustainable development of the local community. And then education. Digital media are extensively used in order to educate professionals in the field. Many of you are doing a PhD, most of you, I assume. And so, I mean, you have plenty of time to study, I assume, right? And you enjoy studying. But in the field of tourism at large, most of the people do not have full years to devote to study. Still, they need to update themselves. Think of travel guides, for instance. People managing guided tours, they need to provide quality information, quality guidance to their clients, but at the same time, they cannot study for a PhD or not even a full-time master program, and in many cases, even not a bachelor program. And so digital media can help them to learn to update. We are running about 12 platforms for the National Swiss Tourism Office to train the tour operators and travel agents worldwide about the history of Switzerland, the nature of Switzerland, the attractions of Switzerland, so that they can understand better Switzerland using fully digitized media, and then sell, if you like, Switzerland to the right people, which in the end means that they will be happy, and also the tourism industry in Switzerland will flourish like it is doing right now. I mean, not because of our courses, but we hope we are helping in that direction. So here are the 5 letters. If the gentleman over there with my hair as well could play it, yeah.
Recently, information and communication technologies are everywhere, with the diffusion of smartphones and the consequent experience and expectation of being always on. But how can this enhance heritage and sustainable tourism? Well, It's as simple as A, B, C, D, E. They enlarge access, providing quality information about heritage places and support for those who want to visit them. E-tourism enriches their experiences with augmented reality, photos, videos, informal learning, and gamification. ICTs connect locals, visitors, and the heritage, for instance, through digital storytelling or awareness campaigns. They help disintermediate relationships between prospects and travellers on the one side and tourism hospitality players on the other, ensuring that local communities can really benefit and that tourism is sustainable. Finally, ICTs can educate tourism operators in the field with the flexibility of e-learning, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. In these ways, ICTs can be so important to promote sustainable tourism and heritage. To find out more, go to our website.
Thank you. Yes, I mean. Could you? Okay. Yeah, by the way, maybe I can go back to, no, apparently not. Yeah, 1 and 2. Okay. By the way, this course is still on, and this is a course we have developed together with AFALULA, which is l'Agence Française pour Alula. And we are training people in the tourism sector in Saudi Arabia. And they are opening the heritage tourism there beyond just the religious pilgrimage. And we are using extensively digitized data from archaeological activities there for the pre-Islamic period in the region. And so the course is in Arabic and in English. So this is the framework we are using when we think, what can we do having high quality digital data in order to use them in the tourism field? And here I would love to present or to introduce two major issues we have found that we always find in this domain. One issue is sometimes, I think this is something we should feel guilty in faculties of communication, like I am in. We tend to think that communication is speaking. This is not communication. Speaking is just expression. Communication means that there is an expression which meets a listening activity. And only if the two of them get together, so are shared, then we can say there is communication. And so if we just think, okay, we have a fantastic archive. I've seen tons of fantastic archives from museums and other institutions being published, open access, and they say, okay, we are communicating everything. No, this is just expression. The issue is, are we able to find someone accessing it and making sense out of it? At that point, we can say we have been communicating or we are communicating. And so, at least in the field of tourism, so if we think of lay people, not super experts like you, not experts in history of art or in archaeology or in other domains, one of the major goals for us is to select. And I know for experts, this is a huge pain. Because as an expert, you are very proud of having digitalized tons of stuff, of having the full archive there available. But then you need to say, okay, let's see 3, 4, 5 items I want to communicate. So I want to have good chances to end up in communicating that. And so it's not at all the more the better. In many cases, the less the better. For communicating in tourism, you need really, like going to a museum, of course you would say, okay, tell me, you would ask everyone, tell me what do you want to see? They will say, You are the expert, you tell me. But then you need to take into consideration how much time do they have, and we will see in a moment. Here, I want also to stress this idea, at least again in the field of tourism for lay people, but also for heritage tourism. An aspect is that people want to get in the shoes of the place. They want to understand the place, they want to understand the heritage. And so they want to have this personal view. So what does it mean to live there? What did it mean to be an emperor in the Middle Age? Okay, so a person's view. And I must say the Swiss Commission for UNESCO has developed fantastic videos about the heritage, the UNESCO enlisted heritage in Switzerland with that personal view. Okay, so it's not a description by an expert, but is a description by someone living there or experiencing that every day. And then you need to find users. And so in many cases, it's a different game, it's a different profession. So you could say it's not my business, I'm digitizing stuff, but you need to have collaboration with people in marketing, with people in communication to make sure that your expression finds someone who, and that meeting makes a communication event. User experience first. I will say the main question we ask ourselves developing materials for tourists is how much time do they have? Okay, it's not like us having, 3 days, 4 days, or whatever. In a museum is, in many cases, 90 minutes. But then you need to go to the restroom for at least 10 minutes. In tourism, we think, restroom is number one. I know, you are very serious people, but when we plan tourism, the issue is, do they find the restroom? By the way, there is one over there. I've checked, it's super clean, so it's fantastic. Second issue, will they have chance to get some food and drink? Okay, so in tourism, it's like having a young baby. You need to care for 24 hours. It's not just the 90 minutes within the museum, or the 20 minutes within the park, or the 90 seconds in front of the Mona Lisa. Okay, and that's very important. So you need to plan everything, and you should ask yourself, okay, I'm developing a mobile app. How long are they likely to use it? 5 minutes, 3 minutes? And here comes in the importance of digital analytics. Of course, I can make a bet and say, okay, I guess they will use it for 5 minutes. But then through digital analytics, I might discover that after 90 seconds, they leave it. And so I need to re-engineer the communication in a way that I expose them to the perfect 90-second experience I can provide to them. Okay, I know, again, it's a pain, you see. I have materials for 3 lives, and then I need to squeeze everything in 90 seconds. Repurposing, what we see in many cases, we can repurpose materials for the gaming industry. Think of places, images, spaces where you can play a game. And it's a super interesting domain because you can familiarize people with places. And fashion, most of the paintings, for instance, you can use them to teach or to explain the everyday life or the fashion practices over a period. Beyond the wow effect, I must say many people, especially in museums, maybe, you are perfect, but other people, not you. In many cases, they are exposed to a wow effect experience which lasts, 15 seconds, and they believe that everyone on the planet will have that same experience, which is not at all the case. And anyway, a wow experience of 15 seconds, if it stops there, is not worth developing a mobile app or developing a website or anything else. So you need really to make it sustainable. Content is king or queen, if you prefer, and context as well. So in tourism, a major issue is so-called localization. So are we able to provide the needed context within the digital environment so that people can understand what they see? And something which might be super obvious for us, like St. Francis was a friar in the Middle Age. For, I assume, many of you, that sounds meaningful. But think of someone coming from China, first-time visitor to Europe. Usually they stay in a country only one day. Okay, so 1 day per country. So for them, what is nearby Berlin is Paris. Okay, that sentence is a meaningless one. And so it's not just the issue of translating it into Chinese, but making sure that it makes sense to them. What is it Middle Age in China and what is it in Europe? What does it mean to be a friar? Why should that St. Francis be a famous gentleman many years ago? Okay. So localization is one of the major issues, especially if we understand, because in many cases we might believe unconsciously that people who travel are Europeans and North Americans. But nowadays, the emerging in-source markets of tourism are China and India. And so we need to make sure that when we provide content, we are the suitable context for them to understand the places. There are people who have understood it, but you can do also, overdo contextualization, like in this case. So this is a promotion of island to the Chinese market. So, it's a green island and pure air, okay, no pollution, not too many people around you. You need to find your space. And what about this one? Yeah, apparently this, hello. Yeah, what about this one? Which country is it? This gentleman. Which country is that? Yeah, exactly, it's silent. And the content is pretty nice, it says. If you are an Islamic visitor, we're happy to welcome you. But the localization is too much. So, I've lived in Ireland for quite a while. This is not the landscape you are likely to find in Ireland. So you need to provide a suitable context, but no one will visit Ireland for its mosques. Yeah, if you go there, you will. And especially if you have nice mosques nearby you, there's no point for you to travel to Ireland. And so in that research I'm quoting there, we have seen that you should localize, but up to a certain point. Beyond that point, if you transform everything like everyday life of the addressee, there won't be any interest to visit the place. And so you should balance the mystery of a place with making it understandable to the visitor. The second issue is that in many cases for tourism, we are focused mostly, for heritage tourism, we are focused mostly on the cultural dimension, which is, cultivating human beings. But more and more, we should be focusing also on the other two dimensions, which all of them are connected with the Latin origin. We are in Rome, so when in Rome, do like Romans. And so this is localization, but this is also explaining culture. So culture comes from colo, which in Latin means to look after, to take care of something, and was used at the lowest level for agriculture. So you look after your environment. And so this is the natural tourism. You look after yourself and the new generations, and you look, so agriculture, culture, and you look after God, which is cult. And so cultural tourism is nowadays focused on all those three elements. Think of enogastronomic tourism. You want to understand a place through the way they eat, the way they integrate the environment within their experience. And so one of the most important studies about sociology of tourism by Ari was the tourist gaze. So was focused on landscape, what you see, okay? But more and more, when people are visiting places, they're also interested in soundscapes. What can you hear there? Which type of sounds? And so here, digital media is super important to provide that part of the experience, which is not just text and images, but sounds, music, voices. And then you can ask yourself, what can I touch there? And especially in the field of fashion heritage and fashion communication, nowadays we are experimenting quite a lot about providing an anticipation of the haptic experience of a texture, for instance, of a cloth. So what does it mean to touch that object? And so how can we digitalize that experience and provide an anticipation of it? And then, I mean, as you know, we are pretty far from tastescapes being digitalized, but this is an emergent issue, and most of the places, think of Spain, in this case, think of France and Italy, are focused on inviting cultural travelers because of their enogastronomic traditions. And so please invent ways of anticipating the taste to digital media. I was mentioning fashion. Fashion used to be the Cinderella of heritage and culture. Nowadays has become center stage. And for instance, here that exhibition at the Metropolitan back in 2018 has been the most visited ever exhibition at the Met. And there, as you can see, the 3 dimensions, so agriculture, so the different materials which have been used, culture, the way they've been shaped, and cult, it was about heavenly bodies, fashion, the Catholic imagination. So many items coming from Rome, by the way, they have attracted so many, more than 1 million visitors. Okay, so 3, yeah. Is it okay, 10 minutes more? Okay. 3 cases where I would love to show you how we try, like, as I told you, very frivolous center to play with those elements. So this case is about Machu Picchu. So I assume you know, it's one of the most iconic places in Peru. Used to be considered also iconic for over tourism, so too many people, or a lot of people, let's say, so visiting that place. Of course, COVID-19 has solved temporarily the issue, and no one was able to visit Machu Picchu up to a few months ago. And so we are still working with Fernando Astete, who used to be the director of the archaeological park in Machu Picchu for around 30 years. And he told us, okay, I have the archive of my diapositives, have taken around 30 years there, and what can I do with them? Okay, and so he asked us, okay, I will give you my diapositives as long as you can do something meaningful with them. And so this has to do with access. So we have started a very extensive digitization process to ensure that they are acquired in digital formats with very high quality, using AI in order to clean from dust and other damages they have had. We are keeping them, I mean, the physical objects in a place with the temperature and humidity optimal in order to keep them alive. And we are publishing them with all the fantastic metadata on the Iconoteca of the Faculty of Architecture of our university. Okay, so this is a nice project and process, a very standard, high quality, to ensure that, and in order to meta tag every single diapositive, we are having conversations with him and his team in order to be sure which year was it, taken from where, etc. And they are being used also to monitor, for instance, the climate change there, because we have images taken from exactly the same place for several decades. And so you can see the difference is a long time. This is nice, even fantastic. I mean, you are super experts in it. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energies. But then how many people are using it? I cannot give you final data because we are in the process of publishing them, but experts, okay, for research. Then we said, okay, but what can we do for culture, for heritage tourism? And so we have developed this machupicchu.hu. I'm super proud of using this Hungarian top-level domain to complete this Machu Picchu stuff. And so together with Fernando Stete, with the current director of Machu Picchu and others, we started a process of also recording all our history, discussing with them, what does it mean for you, this image? And then we have created stories. You can read and listen to those stories in about 4 minutes. 5 minutes, in some cases even 9 minutes. But I mean, for the most, let's say, courageous heritage travelers. But this is storytelling. And of course, we have just chosen a very few of them. Okay, so we had to simplify, we had to provide context, we have to provide a personal view on the archived documentation. Then we're pretty happy. It's a super simple website. But then the question is, how can we make sure that this becomes communication, not just expression? And so we have activated an extensive activities in order to promote it. Nowadays, it's the only external website linked by the official Peruvian Machu Picchu website. And so people visiting, people who want to buy a ticket for Machu Picchu, they are exposed to this one. Okay, so we can help people to be better prepared using those, just a small, a super small part of the archive, but organized in a way that it's palatable to non-expert people. Okay, and so this is an experience you might consider. And now we are working with a new director in order to go farther in that direction. For instance, in order to use the same archive data also for people who are approaching the center of Machu Picchu. So in the interpretation place, we can keep them for, let's say, a quarter of an hour to help them better understand the place they're going to visit. And then to prepare, it's kind of a just-in-time learning before they approach the place. So in order to kind of help them understand they shouldn't go there just to think and say, okay, I visited it, I will take a selfie. I mean, sometimes even people died there taking very dangerous selfies. But to help them understand the value for the local population, the value for history of that place. So this is a first case I wanted to share with you. A second case is Aware Batik. This is a case we have developed in collaboration with the Indonesian government. You might know that batik is a fashion of, let's say, coloring fashion items there. It's not only in Indonesia, it's in India and elsewhere, in China. But in Indonesia, that has been enlisted as intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO back in 2009. And on Fridays in Indonesia, high-rank public officers are supposed to dress with batik. So there are rules about how they should be dressed. And so there, again, we also helped in order to digitize materials. So again, they had already archived digitized materials, but not extensive materials. So we helped them enlarge the quantity and quality of the digitized materials about batik, about specific regions. So we are now covering all the regions in Indonesia. And then we have helped them developing both a mobile app and a website in order to understand the philosophy behind the batik tradition. So it's about the meaning of the different, let's say, designs, as well as the philosophy behind them and the practices of clothing them, of dressing that way. And so in the end, we have this website, Aware Batik, and the connected mobile app. It has been launched by the President of the Republic of Indonesia 2 years ago. Here, Indonesia is big. Slightly bigger than Switzerland, even bigger than Lugano. And so, it's 100,000 people visiting the website and thousands of people using the app. And here we have both the access, so we provide better understanding of the place, but there is also the, let's say here, the better. So we have developed through artificial intelligence, the tool in order to recognize different patterns of batik. So there are hundreds of them. As of now, we are just automatically recognizing with good quality 8 of them. And there, the digitization activity has been really engaging because textile usually is not presented in a very simple way, 2D. And so you need to have images to combine them randomly in order to ensure that the system learns how to recognize a specific pattern. So it took quite a while, but nowadays we are able to recognize those 8 patterns with 78% quality. And then again, how can we make sure that this expression becomes communication? Unfortunately, in the last 2 years, there was no tourism, not even local tourism in Indonesia, but still we partnered with 33 Indonesian universities, almost 1,000 students, and we work with them in order to develop meaningful scenarios where such tool could be used. In order to promote heritage tourism, both for locals as well as for international travelers. I haven't mentioned yet that the Machu Picchu website is nowadays in 2 languages, English and Spanish, but we are developing the Quechua version, while this is in Indonesian as well as in English language. And so we are using it also in order to connect young generations of locals with their own tradition, and as well as people visiting the place and understanding the local traditions. Just a last very brief case is with Bali. In fact, we presented this project in this room in last September. You might know that Bali is a luxury fashion, a Swiss luxury fashion brand, which used to be headquartered in Schönenwald, nowadays is headquartered in Tessin. And they have one of the largest shoe collections on the planet. It's around 33,000 shoes. If you think of the Bata Shoe Museum in Toronto, they have 14,000. And so we are helping them on the one side to digitalize the full archive, including the shoes and everything else. The archive of all the sketches and marketing materials and shows and videos, etc. And for shoes, how many of you have experience in digitalizing shoes? None of you? You should. It's fantastic. So, so we are taking 24. We are using we are not using flash, so we have a zero color light on always. We turn it 24 times, so we take 24 images plus an image from above and an image from below. And so we are also able to provide a 3D, pretty reasonable 3D representation of every shoe. And then we are designing both the digital exhibitions with them, as well as how to enrich the participation or the actual visit to the Bali. Bali is the Helleneum Villa is a fantastic villa on the lake of Lugano. So there will be a permanent exhibition there. And for instance, we are thinking of being able, you see a shoe there, you can ask it to be 3D printed out with your size by the end of the exhibition. So when you exit, you get your shoe like Cinderella. So we are in the, if you like, we won't be able to have the prince there, but if a gentleman wants to come, we might have also the prince checking if this is your shoe or not. But this is the way we, like you understand, you do very serious stuff. We do, more, let's say, frivolous one, but hopefully you got the philosophy behind it, and you got the issues we need to address every day while thinking of digital media, digital archives, and heritage tourism. So thank you so much for your attention.